Well, hello, it's me, Mrs Blackwell. I'm here in a very chilly Bend, Oregon. In fact, a couple of days ago I was out snowshoeing, and a couple of days from now I'll be back on a flight to New Zealand. Before I go, I need to offload some weight, so let me tell you about these books that I read in November. I'll start with one that doesn't weigh anything at all because I listened to the audiobook. It is called Less by Patrick Grant. The subtitle is Stop Buying So Much Rubbish, How Having Fewer Better Things Can Make Us Happier. So Patrick is one of the judges on the Great British Sewing Bee. He's also a tailor on Savile Row, owns a tailor business on Savile Row, and he owns a company that specialises in selling handcrafted, high quality British goods. So he has spent his lifetime building a relationship with quality. This book takes us through how buying fewer better things is better for our wallet, better for the environment, better for our humanity, and it also takes us through the rise of retail from department stores through to modern day behemoths such as Temu and Shein. So I recommend it for my retail friends watching this. Hi Amy and hi Wendy. This book was actually not on my radar, but my friend Gina came into the bookshop and ordered 3 copies that she wanted to give away as Christmas gifts. And this is definitely one of those books that once you've read it, you immediately think of a whole bunch of people in your life that you really want to have this information and give the book to. So that's Less by Patrick Grant. Next, Peggy by Rebecca Godfrey. This is a work of historic fiction based on the life of Peggy Guggenheim. You probably know the name Guggenheim from the famous art museum in New York, and that is named after Peggy's uncle Solomon. But Peggy herself also had a role in the art world, using her personal fortune, part of her personal fortune, to fund artists in the Dadaist and Surrealist movements. This follows her life from her childhood in New York. Her father was a passenger who died on the Titanic, through her teens and her life in London, France, and the end of her life in the final years in Venice. If you love historical fiction, you'll enjoy this book. Rebecca Godfrey died during the writing of this book, and her friend and fellow author Leslie Jamison finished it. So I couldn't find the seams in the story, and just thought it was a great work of historic fiction. The Mighty Red by Louise Erdrich. So Louise here in the US is an author on standing with Ann Patchett and Barbara Kingsolver. I feel like she's probably not quite as well known in New Zealand, but she should be. And this could be a great place to start if you haven't read her before. It's set in North Dakota. It's in a small town that relies largely on the sugar beet industry. And the story itself centers around a love triangle between 3 teens, and also some sort of sinister incident that's happened in the town that slowly reveals itself over the course of the story. Supporting the teens and the cast of characters are the adults and the people from the church and all of their surrounding dramas and antics. Even though this is set in North Dakota, I felt like it really could be a small town anywhere in the world. So again, if you haven't read Louise before, this could be a very good place to start. Wonderful Watercolours, not exactly a reading at all, but we do have these books in the shop and I wanted to tell you about how fun they are. So they are for people who are beginning to learn watercolour. How the book works is the beginning is a bunch of lessons on techniques and colour mixing, and then you have these sheets that have a very faint pattern on them. You take a watercolour liner and you colour in the pattern to begin with, so you make it a little bit darker, and then you get to paint it in. So it's like painting, it's like colouring in with watercolour, but at the same time you're learning techniques and you're learning all about colour mixing. This is part of a series of 3. There is another botanical one and also one with architecture, cafes and bookshops and stuff in it. And these are available now at the bookshop. Make a great Christmas present. 6 Walks by Ben Shattuck. This is, Ben starts out the book, he has a broken heart, he's recovering from a breakup, and he decides to recreate one of the walks in New England, one of the documented walks of Henry David Thoreau in New England. As the title suggests, he also goes on to recreate 5 more walks. The book has a really abrupt stop in the middle. Ben tells us that he abandoned the project for a couple of years and he's come back to it during the COVID pandemic. But his life has changed quite a bit in the intervening years. He has met and married, I think, the actress Jenny Slate, and so there's a different tone to the book in the second half where he's much happier and in less of a soul-searching kind of a place. So if you like books about nature writing or walking, this could be one for you. And finally, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. When this very successful little novella came out in 2021, I was just at a point where I'd read enough about stories about the atrocities of Irish convents and young women who went there to have children when they were unmarried. But a book group that I belong to has chosen the theme Celebration for our December read, so I needed a quick Christmas themed book to read before we head back to New Zealand. And this is the story of Bill Furlong, and he is a coal merchant in rural Ireland. Pretty close to Christmas, he's delivering some coal to the local convent, and he finds a young lady who's locked inside the coal shed, and she's obviously been there for quite a while. He's invited into the convent, and he starts to realise what is happening there to these young women, and then it starts to reveal more about his life and his mother's life, and he makes a very big decision at the end of the novella. You've probably heard of this book, it's been really popular. That's Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, great if you're looking for a little Christmas read. That is everything for December. I will see you again, November. I'll see you again in December.